Hello! This is my video on Creatures with a K, which is my own version of Creatures. So, I started making this because it was obvious that a proper version will never be made professionally. And so I figured I'll just make my own. And I'm not sure if I'm going to release it for free yet, or if I'm going to try selling it. I'll need to talk to a lawyer about it, I guess. Like, if I even can sell it. But I'm not sure what happened there, but he got on top of it. But originally I wanted to release it for free, and I was just doing this in my spare time. Well, I think he's approaching and he's stuck because he doesn't have an end condition for that. Okay, I'll need to fix that. Um, I was doing this in my spare time while I was waiting to get a job, and I haven't found one yet, so I might need to go back on trying to make it free. So let's take a look at this guy anyway. So here in my science kit, I'm going to look at his ATP and ADP. And you can see I've been recording his chemicals since he was born. Well, since the game started, actually. And so it automatically goes back 60 seconds to before the science kit started. And this is true of all the Norns. Their chemicals get recorded once they get loaded into the engine. So it should be a little bit easier to interface with that now. Yep. And now I'm going to take a look at his brain. You can see the problem here is that it's going much too quickly. I'm not sure why that is. Here you can see all the things you can see. There's the hand, and I think that's an let's try moving. And so that's lighting up because the elevator is moving. Okay, so that's that. But you can see it's moving much too quickly. Like the attention keeps changing, and this is causing some problems. There's also the decision lobe is like jumping randomly, basically. It's literally random because if two neurons are trying to fire and there's no way to decide which one should be the decision, I'm just picking it randomly, which probably isn't the best plan, but there you go. And so he basically can't make up his mind about what to do. It's causing these problems, but I'll get to that. I'm not sure what to do about it yet. And so that's that. And let's take a look at some things about how the engine's made. The first thing is that I've foregone the old way of naming sprites, and instead I have the body part letter here, the age, and male or female. And instead of the ID for species, I just have a string. It's up to 16 characters long. It needs to be in ASCII. It can't be in Unicode. And you can see that there's no F, G, and H parts because it's just taking these sprites and mirroring them to get the mirror image of it and rendering that. And so let's look at the body data. And here you have the body data for the head, and you can see there's only 4 lines. This is back, this is front, this is left, this is right. So here's minus 30. This column here is the minimum rotation. When the pose string has a 0, it rotates the sprite by this amount. And then the pose can go up to 9, and when it's at 9, when it's at 9, it's this plus that. And so 5 is this plus that times 5 over 9. Basically, it's just interpolated linearly, and that's how the pose and gates work. So if I look at his genome here, which is in eggs right now, if I can find the poses, they're mostly just taken directly from the original game, and they shouldn't be because they don't really work anymore. So this is one of the things I need to redo all of these at some point, which is a big nightmare. But there you go. And the other thing is, these underscores don't do anything. I can take them out and the engine wouldn't care. I can also put in spaces, and the engine will just ignore those too. It's just there to give some visual separation. Um, there's also some more options for these. You have X, which is the previous frame. I is an interpolation frame. For example, if the previous frame is 1 and the next frame is 2, if there's an I between them, that'll be 1.5. The other thing is there will probably be 4 in the legs because the toes will need to be separate because I'm rotating images so the feet don't look right, really. The other thing you'll notice here is that he has chromosomes, and this is to avoid slider bugs, but they're diploid. It'll take one chromosome from the male and one chromosome from the female in the gen file. This is an egg file, so it's in plain text. A gen file is binary, and it has 2 chromosomes. The egg files only have 2 sex chromosomes, and they are in plain text. They're easy to read because I didn't feel like making a genetics kit. So let's take a look at the sprite builder. So you can see I can import all 3 kinds of sprites. So let's get a sprite in here. And so here's the sprite from the C2 overlays. I just had it on hand, I guess. But you can see how bad it looks, really. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to import it using some of the options that were there. And I'm going to reverse the transparency dithering. And see, it looks much smoother now, much better. And this is important because the new engine has transparency. Previous one didn't, so don't need to do the dithering thing anymore. And the other option here is resizing it. And what this does is just resize it, blows it up. Because monitors have much higher DPI now, and so everything looks too small, or it'll look scaled up and blurry. So it's better to do it beforehand and scale everything up like this. And now I'm going to import a head sprite. And you can see here, like I said, it's in the order of the body data I showed earlier. And these sprites are just missing. And they're missing because it knows to look for this sprite in that there, just use that one. And knows to look for this sprite by taking this one and mirroring it. Same thing's true of the body, I think. Yeah, it just doesn't have that because it's the same, just reversed. And finally, I'm going to take a look at the map editor. You also probably notice that there's no talking yet, and that's partly because I'm not sure how to render text, and partly because I'm not sure how Norns are actually learning language, beyond it being a pattern matching algorithm. And here, again, in the background window thing, I can import all 3 kinds of backgrounds, so I'm going to import Terranornia. Here's Terranornia, and there's the way to add rooms manually isn't really done yet. So if I do this, you can see it cuts it up because that makes it easier for the collision detection to work a little bit faster. But it also doesn't cut it up quite right. It does this. And that's no good. So I'm just going to undo that. So what I've devised instead is room maps. And this is a room map. And you can see here that I have red for one kind of room and yellow for another kind. And this is a 16-bit palette. I mean, not a 16-bit palette, and 16 color palette. And so I can import the room map here and get it here. And there we have all the rooms. They're nicely defined now. It was just done algorithmically. But yeah, we have things like this where one edge is a little bit higher than the other. There's another one there. And I think meld will fix this. So I'm going to choose meld. And you can see it's now aligned properly. So that's that. And then the other options here are background, foreground, and cutouts. The background is what you see here. It has a color map, which is just colors, but what it's showing here is a baked map, which is what it uses when the lighting engine isn't active. Now, currently I haven't made the lighting engine yet, so that will be what it shows. But if it doesn't have all of these it needs, or it doesn't, if the computer's going too slow, it'll use the baked map instead of the lighting engine. And so the normal map's actually a bump map. I just haven't renamed that yet. Effect map is like specularity, iridescence, etc. And cutouts are like foreground and cutouts are both overlays. They're both at plane 50,000. And cutouts are basically a foreground or overlays can accept lighting. Cutouts can't accept lighting. So if I import the cutouts here and hide the background, this is all the things that, if you think about where the light is in relation to the cutout, it wouldn't be lit. So it's just in this separate part of the file. And I did it this way so you don't need to muck around with overlays anymore and positioning them. It's just a big nightmare, I think. So what I'm going to do here is view the background and hide the cutouts and remove hidden pixels. And this is going to do that. And much of this is now transparent. And that'll make it load significantly faster. And it doesn't really matter because if I show the cutouts, they completely cover it up. And it'll just automatically do this for me. So yeah, I think that's all I have to show. Other thing I wanted to note is that sound doesn't work yet because I'm not sure how to make it work. So there you go.